Tonight, bringing the climate conversation to the forefront of the federal election campaign. We have that story and
the disappearance of the Amelia Earhart statue has prompted a metal recycling company to offer up a big reward to help solve the crime.
We want them caught. We want them convicted. We want them to serve time for what they have done.
I'm Terry Roberts. I'll have that story coming up.
What I hear at the door is that Mark Carney is probably our best option choice.
Well, as the clock ticks closer to Election Day, we bring you to the riding of Avalon to meet your candidates.
Amazing, bro. We got the best team in the world right here, man. I love it. Like I said, Rocco's insane, man. He's best goalie ever, bro.
Well, what a week to be a fan of the Labrador West Lakers. We head to the Under-18 Hockey Championships in Labrador for the gold medal game.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. There's more reaction tonight to the theft of the Amelia Earhart statue in Harbour Grace. There's now a $25,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and the return of the statue. As Here and Now's Terry Roberts reports, this province's best-known sculptor is rattled by the loss of such a special piece of art.
There's growing outrage over the theft of the Amelia Earhart statue in Harbour Grace. And this province's largest recycler of metals is offering up a big reward to help solve the mystery.
We are offering a $10,000 reward to the arrest and conviction of the person or people who are responsible for this. This should not have happened.
Just before 3 a.m. on Thursday, thieves loaded the statue into the back of a vehicle and drove away. There are fears they plan to break it apart or melt it down in order to sell it to a scrapyard. But after the public outcry, that won't be easy.
We want them convicted. We want them to serve time for what they have done.
The reward for its return has soared to $25,000, thanks to many anonymous donations from so-called Friends of Amelia. The statue is made of bronze and was sculpted by Lubin Boykov nearly 2 decades ago on the 75th anniversary of Amelia Earhart's historic solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean, a flight that began in Harbour Grace. The alloy used for this statue is unique, about 95% copper, weighing about 700 pounds. Today's price tag for a work of art like this, at least $200,000.
The thing that saddens me the most is how, an artist's original work of art is now possibly destroyed and lost forever.
This sculptor, who studied under Lubin Boykov, could recreate the Earhart statue, but says it won't be the same.
It would be like commissioning an artist to repaint the Mona Lisa. It's just not going to happen. It's just that's why these are so valuable. This comes from the artist's hand. That's the intangible value of these things.
This is Nuco Metal and Auto Recycling, 13 locations across the province, all under close supervision from the company's main office in St. John's. Deserve it or not, businesses like this have a certain reputation when it comes to the sale of stolen metals like copper. But Nuco often cooperates with the law on theft cases. So when word reached here that a work of art in Harbour Grace was stolen, it took action.
We don't want you in this industry.
Companies like Nuco pay between $2 and $3 for a pound of copper, but not this time. They're on high alert for the statue and have spread the word to other recycling yards.
We're watching for it. Anything that comes in that resembles a statue or those pieces of bronze or large amounts of bronze.
Amelia Earhart herself disappeared without a trace in 1937. The statue was commissioned by the late Roger Pike to honor her pioneering legacy. Now the fear is this Amelia may be lost as well. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
A special service was held in St. John's Thursday evening at the Basilica of St. John the Baptist and was open to the public. Hundreds attended yesterday's Mass, which commemorated the life and work of the late Pope Francis, who died Easter Monday at the age of 88. And a reminder that CBC will bring you live coverage of Pope Francis's funeral, which is happening tomorrow in St. Peter's Square. Heather Hiscox will host Saturday's special presentation, which begins 4:30 a.m. Island time. That's a half hour earlier in most parts of Labrador. Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services is changing its face mask policy for anyone entering a health facility. Starting next week, patients and visitors will no longer need to mask up, provided they're free from respiratory illness or gastro. NLHS says it can reinstate masking should public health change. Anyone with COVID-19 symptoms or a rash is asked to continue wearing a mask while inside any health center.
Topics like housing and cost of living have dominated the conversation this election, and that's kind of put climate on the back burner. One climate activist says that Canada's energy sector needs a huge boost, and their answer for it, green jobs.
Kind of work that could be done to help communities face the climate crisis, for example, is to have people trained in emergency response and preparedness for extreme weather events, to have people working to build community resilience, whether that's like wetland restoration or moving homes away from eroding shorelines or building more affordable, more sustainable housing.
The environmental science student says she's lived through water shortage and drought growing up, and that it led her here, going door to door, talking about climate change.
I think this is really important to have this conversation with everyday people to know about their own experience about climate change and rising costs of living. Older people, they are worried about the economy, about the job, that they said that what happened to economic to this province as they saw this transition away from cod fishery to this oil and gas industry.
John Peters teaches sustainability. He says change can't happen overnight, and it will take a lot of political will to move away from big earners like oil and gas.
Or if you're actually to think seriously about, phasing out your offshore oil industry, you couple that with developing things like retrofits for houses, both with heat pumps, but also in terms of improving energy efficiency for homes as well as businesses. And in fact, if you have oil and gas sectors that are making money, you can take that money in terms of royalties and use it for the public use and use it for that transition.
And you can't create new industry without skilled workers.
It's also about how we are going to make sure that we have the workforce and the good jobs that are going to come out of this kind of transition, and that people are going to be supported, and there's going to be the training for them, and that there is going to be transition money available.
Neighbours United is a group of community environmental activists. They understand that change is risky.
I think that a lot of people feel that they have been able to financially benefit from it, that it's provided for them things like a strong income, an income where they're able to support their family and their loved ones and have a future in Newfoundland. But it's also kind of conflicting because I've also heard people share that their employment has been precarious. There have been a lot of people who've been laid off with really short notice and then have had trouble finding new jobs in other industry.
The group knows people want good paying jobs, a sense of security, but believes there are better options for the province and its future. Julia Israel, CBC News, St. John's.
And yes, the federal election is just days away, and Here and Now has been profiling all 7 of this province's ridings. And tonight we take you to Avalon, which will send a new face to Ottawa as Ken McDonald steps away after a decade in that seat. Here and Now's Heather Gillis reports.
The riding of Avalon spans about 5,000 square kilometres. It's a serious swath of Newfoundland's easternmost peninsula, taking in parts of major municipalities like St. John's and Conception Bay South, and more rural towns like Harbour Grace to the north, and then down along the southern shore. It all adds up to about 82,000 residents. 4 candidates are running to replace maverick Liberal MP Ken McDonald, who was often at odds with his own party. Paul Connors is on the ballot for the Liberals. He's a former staffer of McDonald with roots in Bell Island. Connors says he's ready to step up to bat.
I got big shoes to fill, but I'm ready to do it.
He was the head of the province's Federation of Agriculture for a decade and a half and is a town councillor with CBS. He says he learned the ropes working for McDonald. on the phone and on the doorstep. Cost of living and the housing crisis are top priorities. Connor says whoever forms the next federal government needs to create more housing by giving money to the provinces and to home builders.
They're ready to go. They just need the ability for municipalities and I say probably the provincial government with some crown lands and that to free up some land so they can start building affordable housing.
He says the Canada-U.S. relationship is also a major issue he's hearing from voters.
What I hear at the door is that Mark Carney is probably our best choice for negotiating with Trump.
I'm running to be your voice in Ottawa as your next Conservative Member of Parliament.
Steve Kent is also on the ballot. A former PC provincial health minister and deputy premier, he's no stranger to politics. Kent was also once the mayor of Mount Pearl and was the city's top administrator, but was ousted after a bitter battle where he allegedly breached the code of conduct and was part of a harassment investigation. CBC News has made multiple interview requests to Kent's team for this story, but he hasn't been made available to talk about his priorities.
Good afternoon from the Ghouls.
Instead, Kent's campaign has been active on social media and calling for more volunteers.
Good afternoon from Conception Bay South. Good evening from Avondale.
The NDP candidate, Judy Vanta, was also unavailable for interviews. According to the party's website, she's a longtime party member and organizer. Alexander Tilley is running for the Rhinoceros Party. Whatever candidate people in this riding elect on Monday night, Avalon will be sending a fresh face to Ottawa to be its next MP. Heather Gillis, CBC News, Conception Bay South.
Well, now to some sports news. The Under-18 Hockey Championship is underway in Labrador City this week with a good old-fashioned hometown showdown. The Mount Pearl Blades going toe-to-toe with the Labrador West Lakers. Here now's Daryl Din has that story.
The hometown team had already faced off against Mount Pearl, and that game was a nail-biter, ending in a tie. Now the question on everyone's minds, who would walk away with the gold medal, the banner, and the bragging rights?
I'm feeling great, a little nervous for this game. All the games have been extremely close. It's probably one of the better, evenly played games that I've watched in any provincial tournaments that I've spectated at over the years.
It was a full house for the final game. The local community channel even streamed it live for those at home, but they missed out on the poutine. The first period was tight. The Lakers scored their first goal, and it just kept on going. The team captain delivered the fourth and final goal of the game, and a shutout by goalie Rocco St. Marie.
Labrador West, Lakers, let it all out. You are provincial champions.
The captain's mom was all choked up.
Stomach was gone all day. The nerves.
Till now, Labrador West had only ever walked away with silver, a major moment for Nate Downs, a man of few words.
How are you feeling?
Good.
Did you think you were finally going to get gold this round?
Yeah.
The Lakers left winger says it's all about teamwork.
Amazing, bro. We got the best team in the world right here, man. I love it. Like I said, Rocco's insane, man. He's the best goalie ever, bro.
A goalie who's been playing with his team for 11 years.
Feeling pretty good. Defense did a lot of work for me, so I was pretty happy with that.
And for Coach Spurl, it felt great to finally take away the gold.
Happy for the guys. They worked hard for this, so special group. I've been coaching these guys since they were in Adam.
Meanwhile, St. Pierre and Miquelon are heading home with a bronze. But the U18 banner will be hung with pride in the Labrador City Arena. It's a memorable moment for many of these Lakers about to leave the minor leagues. As for the haircuts, it's a rite of passage for team rookies, who won't soon forget this week's provincial tournament. Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
How great is that? We've had some fairly quiet weather today. The snow is gone in the east. That's the good news. A couple of ridges of high pressure, some unsettled weather, though, that will continue as we head through the evening hours tonight. But tomorrow, it looks like we'll see a little bit of sunshine in some cases, but some areas will see some afternoon showers, that's for sure. And the tale of two seasons. That's because the temperatures are going to be very different depending on where you are across the province. And then we've got some significant rain on the way for Sunday, Monday. I'll get into all the details coming up.
Labrador fish harvesters are pushing to get their fair share of cod. This as the Department of Fisheries and Oceans is reviewing proposals from fishing groups ahead of this year's quota allotment. The Labrador Fishermen's Union Shrimp Company says last year's cod fishery was a huge success, in part because DFO recognized the needs of Indigenous groups.
I think this year we could see a substantial increase in the quota, seeing that the biomass is over 500,000 tonnes. So if we fish that around 5%, we could be looking at a harvest of about 25 to 27,000 tonnes. So that's what we're proposing. So that's the way that looks for this season. Whether they will go that far, I'm not sure. But still, that is a very conservative number, less than 5% after biomass.
Well, we've been hearing from voters all over the province during this federal election campaign, and tonight, CBC contributor Caroline Nakasak is asking people in Nain about the issues that matter on Labrador's north coast.
My name is Joseph Onalik. I am from a little bit of everywhere on Nunavut, I like to say.
What's the most important issue for you in this federal election?
Food insecurity, I think, is a massive one. Like, since moving here, since moving back home, it's been rough. Like the food prices are insane, and me as the breadwinner in my household, just having to pay for that along with the gas and oil and all of these other things that we need to live here. It's like it feels too expensive. Everything feels way too expensive.
The price of food in northern Labrador, it's really expensive to live up here now, and if you were living in a southern land, you would pay like maybe $20 or $30 for a big groceries. Here it's like $100, $150 for big groceries.
What's one thing the next government could do to make life better for people in Nain?
I noticed that a lot of people here have broken windows, broken doors, and they're not really doing anything or don't have the means to repair them. Maybe through Nunavut government they could do something and help the people, and maybe subsidize food a little more.
And housing is another one. We need more help with our housing, and not just more houses, but help with the houses that are too old to live in or have too many people in one household. Like we need more help with those issues, but those are the main ones I think that come to mind.
Are you still thinking about how you're going to vote, or is your mind already made up?
It's I've been thinking about it for a very long time. I don't know, it feels like less of a who's going to represent us. It feels more or less like the lesser of two evils at this point.
Just that I hope we can get a better prime minister next time, and hope more people show up to vote to show who they want to have as our next prime minister.
Well, back here in St. John's, there's a new extra large flag hanging from the Confederation building. Premier Andrew Furey's office says this is a response to Donald Trump's repeated threat to annex Canada. A statement from the Premier's office says Newfoundland and Labrador is proud to stand in solidarity with the federal government and fellow governments across this great nation against threats from the U.S. president. Provincial legislatures in Manitoba and British Columbia have also raised large Canadian flags. Furey's office says this is a symbol of patriotism from a united, sovereign country.
If you don't show up for the job interview, you don't get the job.
If I was a Conservative candidate, I don't think I would be on CBC either.
Well, is saying no to public debates and media interviews a good strategy or bad for democracy for candidates? Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, Peter Cowan will return with his political panel. And the conversation is about to get interesting.
So here's what we've gathered from talking to local residents.
I spoke with a renter who's facing eviction this fall.
It is not for the weak of stomachs.
What does it mean for you to be able to give that advice and to know that you've helped? Don't look down.
If this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
St. John's.
Corner Brook.
Shaji, Innu First Nation.
Grand Falls, Windsor.
New West Valley, Newfoundland and Labrador.
All right, time for a look at the weather. And the day started off still pretty snowy, but really changed around. The sun came out and everything melted.
Yeah, as soon as the temperatures jump up and that sun comes out, especially around this time of year, it really starts to melt. It's all gone now. It's like it never happened yesterday. Let's take a look at what's going on across the province. So there are some very spring-like temperatures happening for parts of central. Terra Nova, 11 degrees, 13 in Badger. Deer Lake, same thing. And really, depending on where you are, if the winds are blowing onshore, temperatures much cooler. Only 4 degrees was the daytime high in St. John's. And temperatures along the west coast sitting anywhere from 6 to 9 degrees through the day. And then up across Labrador, much cooler in Happy Valley Goose Bay, only reaching a high near 8 today. But coastal areas into the single digits, still only 3 and 4 degrees this afternoon. Things are going to change. But here's a live look outside. This looked very different yesterday. Sunshine finally, and some temperatures, like I said, the cool temperatures at 3 degrees. Now, there's not a whole lot of wind out there, but they have switched to more southerly winds, around 6 kilometers per hour. And these southerly winds are going to stick around as we head through the next couple of days. Still lovely temperatures through Gander, Deer Lake, 10 to 12 degrees. A little cooler now, though, along the northeast coast, only hovering around 1 degree and twilling 0 in Lassie. And then up across Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures between 2 and 8 degrees at the moment. And if we take a look at the radar, there is, although it's warm, there's still some showers happening through areas the interior and parts of central. This is generally going to continue. It'll be very light, nothing too significant through tonight as we take a look at the future tracker. And then up across Labrador, not a whole lot happening for you either. In fact, most of you should see some clearing as we head through the overnight, which will allow those temperatures to drop into the minus single digits. That will be the story right across the Big Land, between -4 and -8 as your daytime highs. And then for the island, winds will generally be light tonight, hovering around the 0 degree mark for the Avalon through central, and the rest of the island will sit between -2 and -4 as your overnight lows. Now, as we head into tomorrow, essentially we'll see some cloud cover to start, but the afternoon should turn, it should be beautiful through the afternoon with some sunshine. Now, it does look like we'll see a few showers pop up in the afternoon, very similar to what we saw today, and those could extend from central through to the Avalon. They will be very scattered in nature, though, if they do develop. And then we see our next weather maker move in. That is going to bring some rain by the time we get into the evening hours, around 6 or 7 o'clock tomorrow night. We're already going to be looking at that potential for some showers for the southwest. That will continue north and east as we head through the overnight with some fairly significant rain by the time we get into Sunday morning. And that will continue through the day as well. So again, a tale of two seasons, depending on where you are. We do have those southerly winds, relatively light, but still only looking at daytime highs across the Avalon, somewhere between 5 and 6 degrees. The rest of eastern Newfoundland through central parts of the west coast, you will be looking at your temperatures between 10 to even 13, maybe even 14 degrees through the day. But those southerly winds are going to keep temperatures much cooler on the south coast, and same thing for the northern peninsula. Now, Labrador, pretty much the same thing. North and west, you're looking at temperatures between 4 and 8 degrees. And then Happy Valley Goose Bay towards the coast, your temperatures between 9 and 13. So that next system that is going to move in Saturday night into Sunday, prompting a wreck house wind warning. So it's going to bring some windy conditions early Sunday morning and then, or through the day, I should say, on Sunday morning. And then as far as the rain goes, significant rain expected right through Monday. Some areas along southern Newfoundland and even potentially the Avalon could see in excess of about 70 to as much as 90 plus millimeters are certainly possible. And we're going to expect that rain to be very, very heavy at times through Sunday. But I will break that forecast down for you when I come back a little later in the show.
Well, it is almost election day. Voters will go to the polls on Monday. So what should we be watching in these final days? Well, our political panel is back for more. Amanda Wills, an NDP staffer. Scott Sims is a former Liberal MP and a senior associate with Hill and Knowlton. And we've got Eugene Manning, who's a Conservative consultant. Thanks so much, all three of you, for being here.
Hello, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks. So we've had a lot of national polling in this campaign, but this week we got a glimpse into some Newfoundland and Labrador numbers. Narrative Research has a poll out, and so for decided voters, it has the Liberals at 70%, Conservatives at 24%, and 6% for the NDP, with a margin of error of 7%. So for some comparison, that's more than 20% higher for the Liberals than what they received in the last election, and about a 10% drop for both the Conservatives and the NDP. Eugene, I want to start with you. How much harder does that make it in places like Long Range Mountains and St. John's East, where the party was hoping to maybe pick up seats in this election?
With polling in this province, we have such a small population, 500,000 people. I don't know what the number set was. It really depends on where those polls draw from. And
yeah, it was about 250 or 300 people that were polled. So it's it's a pretty small number.
Yeah, but if you're trying to get a cross-section of Labrador to St. John's, and you can easily hit pockets of strong support either way. Not to take away from it, I'm not necessarily a person who always dismisses the polls. I just don't think in this case they're accurate. You look at those websites online that'll do predictions. There's always a big asterisk on those Newfoundland Labrador seats, I should say, simply because the data that comes out of here is so small. It's so hard to actually
we don't have as much polling as other places, which is why it is interesting when we do actually get a full poll that is looking at this province. Amanda, for St. John's East and Mary Shortall, I noticed she's running a campaign that, she's focusing a lot more on her brand. So how important is that when you see some of those polling numbers for the NDP?
Well, there's a couple of things. Mary certainly is focusing on her brand, which is being a New Democrat, because that is what Mary has been all of her life. That's what she's worked on many campaigns. She's the president of the party. So she's out knocking on doors. And those numbers, I think, do not reflect what we're actually seeing on the ground. Certainly, it's also, I do believe it was an internet poll and it just talked about parties. It didn't actually talk about people. So that is a huge problem. Not necessarily a problem, but I think it's
you might get a different answer if you're asking, would you vote NDP versus would you vote for?
Yeah, because I know that when I was knocking on doors last night in the snow, that one of the things that I heard was people very much so talking about sorry, Eugene didn't mention Brazel at all, but they were talking about, is it going to be Mary? And I always voted NDP. And, with the stuff with Trump, I'm a little concerned, and we had lots of conversations about that. So I think that you are seeing a tighter race between the NDP, certainly, than you might get from the narrative poll.
When you look at those numbers, Scott, significantly better for the Liberals than the last election. Again, they're still a couple days away, and it was just one poll. But, when you look at Central Newfoundland, for example, the riding you represented before, do you think that could make a difference in terms of the Liberals' chances to be able to take that back?
I wish I had 70%. I know there's a margin of error here, but 70% is still 70%. Any higher than that, it would be a Danny Williams popularity contest. Because the conversation has shifted dramatically, right? One of the things that Newfoundland and Labrador in particular tends to do is we glom onto the leaders, not because they greatly inspire us, but we glom onto a lot of leaders because we really don't like them. Last election, the one I lost in, Justin Trudeau came up a lot.
And
to
not
the point
in a good way.
Not in a good way at all. And if you look at the other side, if you look at who was the leader of the Conservatives, well, he was despised so much that it could have been a mammal with a head. Could have been anybody. Turns out it was Aaron O'Toole's a nice guy, but he was not a factor whatsoever. This number, this 70%, I think leadership is crawling into this. And we're hearing now quite a bit about Trump, that's the leader we're not talking about, who's being talked about. Because the people I've talked to on the ground since coming here is everybody's talking about Trump. If they're watching CBC, I'm sorry, but they're also watching CNN just to get the latest musings. Because Donald Trump became, 20 years ago or so, became a reality TV star, and he just didn't stop. Like, he's captivated everyone in this conversation. And I think the Liberals so far, from what I can see, and I say that from honest perspective, they've benefited the most.
The miners are a family, and they have to take care of each other.
It's truly an honor as a Newfoundlander to be able to go out there and bring back a representation of all the Newfoundlanders that weren't able to come back.
Love the world around you because it does shimmer with the impossible sometimes made possible.
As As you may have noticed during our profiles on federal election ridings, some Conservative candidates have decided not to participate in debates or do interviews during this campaign. So what's behind that strategy? Let's head back to the political panel with Peter Cowan and our political veterans.
This is one thing that really gets my goat when it comes to politicians, and me included, because I always made a point of not being that person. I don't care if you're Liberal, I don't care if you're NDP, Conservative, or even Rhinoceros Party. If you don't show up for the debates and ignore the media, you don't get the job. If you don't show up for the job interview, you don't get the job. I would not vote for a Liberal candidate if they didn't show up for this stuff.
You're not applying for
I'd say two things
the
on
job,
that.
yeah.
One is
you're not applying yourself.
I can't speak to every event. I know Conservative candidates have been showing up to some. They have been participating in some. They haven't been participating in others, as have other candidates. There's two things. One, the people who go to those events, for the most part, have their, as we discussed here last week, have their mind made up already. So time is better spent on the doors. Now I can wear two hats here. From a democracy and philosophy perspective, I'm with Scott. I want to hear from my candidate. I want to hear what they have to say. If I'm a campaign manager, I want my candidate on the doors 10 hours a day, nonstop. They got to be engaging with people and hitting people one-on-one. So I understand the politics and the
But
and
even
the
on
policy
interviews,
of it.
there have been a number of them that have refused to, even do a 10-minute interview with...
Okay, well, as someone who's done a few interviews with CBC, I know how the editing works here, and to be quite honest with you, yes, if I was a Conservative candidate, I don't think I would be on CBC either. So,
but it's also NTV or, the Telegram, it's not just...
The Independent, the Independent had a number of debates across the province, and people didn't, certain people. I mean, I understand if somebody's got to work or something like that, where they, because, the other thing with this election having been moved around, it was difficult for some people to get the time off that they needed to do, to be able to participate. But it was quite a recurrent feature of some Conservatives to not do something.
And I think you can't make the presumption that you're going to have a bad edited cut on an interview. You have to do it and then complain after, because the point of that is that it's an excuse that people will use to say that they don't want to introduce
Hold on now, Scott, we can cut it off there. There's a correction page, which is like 2 clicks deep on the CBC after something pops up.
Right.
The corrections is not first and foremost. And even sometimes the headline stays as the way it was before without the edit. And you know yourself, in an election campaign, it's the headline which draws the attention. The correction 2 or 3 days later doesn't. So I understand why these candidates would be hesitant. I'd also say, in the changing media landscape, there has been some long-form engagement, long-form interviews, not as much locally, which I would like to see, but there has been some areas where there could be, and things have stepped up.
But why write off people like the CBC if you want to only go to that long-form? Do both.
Well, yes, but...
you can't hit every door.
The CBC in this particular campaign, I believe, and I'm not speaking, but there are those that are third-party entrants into this election advocating for more funding to maintain funding to the CBC. There's a lot of people who feel very strongly that the CBC are not an independent presence in this particular election, because there has been a lot of discussion regarding funding. Now, we can have that conversation. I'd love to have it, whether it be Radio Canada or CBC Radio, or even the difference between the news.
A G7 nation has to have a public broadcaster. And I think what we're seeing here right now is a little bit of Conservative policy floating into our conversation, which is okay. But I just want to point out that it is...
But policy should drive, Amanda, policy should drive actions. What I'm saying is I can completely understand as a Conservative why someone will be hesitant to step into those type of forums. I'm not here trying to defend them carte blanche. I agree with Scott. I think we should be hearing from everyone and hearing their views. The other challenge is, a national campaign is $36 million, 36 days. If you make the news nationally, you've just cost your campaign $1 million. And there's always that fear, both on the local scene and on the national scene, from an organizer perspective, is you don't want to offer up, as much as we might enjoy that soundbite, to have some fun with it, you don't want to be the one caught in that being misrepresented, where now you've just derailed the campaign for a day or two.
Which may explain why some of the folks, because some of the Conservative candidates, David Brazel, for example, has done a ton of interviews, he's shown up in a lot of forums, but he's also way more experienced. He's been a politician for...
Which is what boggles my mind about Pierre Poilievre. I've known Pierre Poilievre for 20 years or more. I have never known... The most dangerous place to be in Ottawa is standing between Pierre Poilievre and a spotlight, because he'll take it. And I don't understand why there's this corralling of media away from him to do that, because he's perfectly capable. Back to your point about hesitancy, I understand people are hesitant, But if you're way too hesitant to get out there in front of all media outlets, including the public broadcaster, why are you running? Do something else.
Well, you got to talk to your constituents too. I mean,
Correct.
this is, and I understand what you say about, some of these organizations are having debates, and you may be speaking to people in the room who already have certain viewpoints, but people need to hear what you're going to say, right? But it's very.
It's not that these people. Sorry, Amanda.
No, but what I'm talking about is we need to hear from people. They shouldn't be afraid. When you're on the floor of the House of Assembly and you've got to fight for people, I want to know that somebody's going to fight for me and stand up for me.
Well, I mean, the Florida House of Assembly is only open 25 days a year anyway. So
the House of Commons, by the way, is open way more, I should say.
But there's other ways. I think it's a choice, not necessarily that they don't want to engage the electorate. They're choosing different options and different avenues to do that. And I think it's representative of a change in media landscape, and it's a conversation that is not happening just here. It's within the campaigns. It's happening as where to find people and where to engage people, because to your point, with Ring cameras now, no one even opens the door anymore. So it's finding ways to engage the voter, and people are going to try, I think for the next few cycles, people are going to try some different things, and we're going to find what works.
Well, an interesting discussion. We're going to have to leave it there, but thanks so much for joining me. And yeah, we'll all be carefully watching on election night to see how this all plays out.
Yes. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
For details.
Well, it's Friday, so let's find out who's celebrating. Happy 55th anniversary to Glenn and Patsy Caines of Pasadena. It's 50 years of love for Ambrose and Gladys Short of Roberts Arm. Wishing Harold and Barbara Crosby of Bay Roberts a happy 60th anniversary. Happy 57th anniversary to Calvin and Christine Kindon of Glenwood. Congratulations to Wayne and Joan Drover of Hodges Cove, who are also celebrating 57 years of marriage. Happy anniversary to John and Lucille Conway. They've been together for 50 years. Wishing Bill and Sandra Ivany of Buckins a happy 54th anniversary. Happy 58th anniversary to Joe and Marie Vaders from Glenwood. Happy 60th anniversary to Erwin and Dorcas Genge of Anchor Point. Ruby and Gerald George are celebrating their 64th anniversary in Hickman's Harbor. 62nd anniversary wishes going out to Wally and Audrey Jenkins of Grand Falls, Windsor. Happy 60th anniversary to Cliff and Jackie Bugden of Stephenville. Congratulations to Fonce and Jean Cooper of Dunville on their 54th anniversary. Wishing Jeanette and Jim Reed a happy 50th anniversary. They're from Pasadena and now live in Fort McMurray. Happy 62nd anniversary to Baden and Genevieve Hiscock of Carbonear. Best wishes to Jacob and Ruby Lushman of Grey River, who are celebrating their 50th anniversary. Congratulations to Cyril and Elsie Boone. They've been married for 61 years. Happy 55th anniversary to Mike and Marion Seward of Sunnyside. Wishing Roland and Beatrice Mentionton of St. Albert, Alberta, a happy 54th anniversary. They're celebrating in Newtown, Bonavista Bay. Happy 53rd anniversary to Sid and Ivy Lungergan of Spaniards Bay. Love from family and friends. Tom and Dorothy King of St. Louis, Labrador are marking 58 years of marriage. Anniversary greetings going out to Liz and Roy Pierce of Fortune. They've been married for 60 years. Happy 63rd anniversary to Mary and Harvey Luffman of Harbor Grace. Happy 50th anniversary to John and Diane Houlihan of Happy Valley Goose Bay. Happy anniversary to John and Debbie Butt. They're celebrating a golden anniversary. Congratulations to Bruce and Bonnie Roberts of Goose Bay. Today is their 50th anniversary. Wishing Aloysius and Josephine Caines a happy 68th anniversary in Bird Cove on the Great Northern Peninsula. Now to some birthdays. Wishing Sam Upshaw of Foxtrap a happy 91st birthday. Happy 93rd birthday to Violet Quinton of Southern Bay. Happy birthday to Helen Hinchy, who celebrated her 101st birthday on Saturday. Best wishes from all her nieces and nephews and their families. Happy birthday to Albert Knoll of Carbonear, who turns 92 on Sunday. Happy 98th birthday tomorrow to Elizabeth Croft, with love from your family and friends. Happy birthday to Mabel Mayo from Buren Bay. She turned 94 yesterday. Happy birthday to Donna Fitzgerald, who just turned 90. She's from Kings Cove, Bonavista Bay. Happy birthday to Jack Nee of Gander, who turns 92 today. Happy birthday to Matilda Kerfont of Cape St. George, who's celebrating on Sunday. Happy 93rd birthday to Edith Chapman of Port Blandford. And birthday wishes going out to Mae Vincent of Newtown, Bonavista Bay. She's celebrating her 100th birthday this weekend with family and friends. All right, time for a look at the long-range forecast, and just want to ask you about Election Day coming up on Monday. It's going to be nice some places, but not so nice other places.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got an area of low pressure that's going to move in starting on Sunday, really Saturday night into Sunday, and that's going to continue through Monday. So let's take a look at what's going to happen just to time all of that out for you. So Saturday evening, we'll start to see some rain on the southwestern corner of the island. That will work its way across, really across the island as we head into the morning hours. We could see some wet snow in there at times as well. But overall, this is going to be a mainly rain event. You can see with the yellow and the orange there that some of this rain is going to be fairly heavy at times. That will be the case really across southern areas of the island, through parts of central, the Avalon. Also going to see some of that heavy rain through Sunday. And as far as those amounts go, like I showed you a little bit earlier, we could be talking about 70 to as much as 100 millimeters of rain by the time this is all said and done, by the time we get into Monday. So temperatures on Sunday are going to sit somewhere between 7 to 9 degrees through the day. Now, the northern peninsula, you will sit in the just barely above zero, about 3 degrees. Now, Labrador, other than along the strait, you are going to sit this one out. And actually, Sunday looks pretty beautiful. 14 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay, 12 in Cartwright. Much cooler, though, for the north and the west, where your temperatures will sit between 4 and 7 degrees. And also, you're looking at the slight chance of some showers. So that rain, like I said, will continue through the overnight into early Monday as well. Still looking at some heavier rain, but most just steady rain, really, at this point. But things will improve for the northern peninsula, parts of the west coast as we get into the afternoon. Then we look to the evening, and temperatures aren't going to be very warm through parts of central. Things are actually going to cool down. You could see this end as some snow through the overnight. Take a look at the difference in temperature. So along the south coast of the island, eastern areas, we'll see your temperatures between anywhere from 7 to 10 degrees. Central, much cooler, and even the northern peninsula, 2 to 3 degrees will be your daytime highs. Up across Labrador, cooling down a little bit as well as we head into Monday, looking at a few showers still possible for the north coast, but overall daytime highs will be between 3 and 8 degrees, with the exception of the north, where you'll hover around the 0 degree mark. So Monday, again, about 10 degrees. By Tuesday, dropping quite a bit. Still looking at the potential for some showers. We may see some flurries in the mix there as well on Tuesday because of those temperatures. But by the time we get into Wednesday, starting to climb up, back up again. And there's a chance we'll see some sunshine in the mix there midweek. As far as Central goes, there's your cooler temperatures, 13 degrees by Tuesday. So just hang on, it's coming. Wednesday, a little bit on the wet side, but you're still looking at some mild temperatures. Western Newfoundland, a nice day on Tuesday, but dropping back down to about 9 degrees on Wednesday, with some rain. And then for Labrador, you are you're nice through Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday going to be a little different, dropping your temperature Wednesday night, so things will likely end as some snow. And Western Labrador, you're looking at a pretty decent stretch as well, but you're also looking at some snow by the time we get into Wednesday. Our weather photo today taken in Norris Arm. Great shot of Sandy Point. Beautiful sunset there. Thank you to John for that lovely photo. And if you have any weather photos you'd like to just share with us from the weekend, who knows? If you want to share your rainy photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca. Although Labrador looks beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
Spring.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah.
And of course, you can tune in to CBC on Monday because there will be an election special happening. Of course, it starts 8 p.m. Newfoundland time, half hour earlier in Labrador. And David Cochran's going to be on it. He's going to be covering off the Newfoundland and Labrador portion of election results and election coverage. And also here and now, we'll have lots of reporters out in the field. So it's going to be an interesting day. So hopefully we'll see you then. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.